Merry Christmas, you fucks.
You're just trying to, butter me up. That's all you're trying to do.
Exactly. You tickled my philosophical pickle, Troy.
I mean, just give me an HBO prequel on Robert's Rebellion.
Hey! Merry Christmas, you fucks. And Happy Hanukkah, you dicks. And Kwanzaa, you punks. And what else am I missing here? Whatever else. Welcome to Owls at Dawn, the Christmas special, shitty hour. I don't know what we're going to call it. Troy, you tell the people. What's going on this week? I don't know.
Well, we said last week we were going to have a shitty minute special. So we're dedicating our entire episode this week to being a shitty minute. And in doing so, in the spirit of Festivus, if you're familiar with the Seinfeld episode from the 90s, if you're our age, then hopefully you're aware of this. There are two rituals you have to do on Festivus, the secular holiday for the rest of us. The first is the airing of grievances. This is where you air out all the things that have upset you this year. Now, we're not going to do it to each other because I think we love each other too much to do that. But we're going to do it about 2016, the year in general. And we're going to throw a wrench into it by actually giving each other grievances to execute, to grieve. And then grade each other on whether or not we think we were accurate in our airing of the grievance. And the second ritual is the feats of strength, which usually involves wrestling, the head of the household, which we will not be doing since we're on a podcast, and wrestling on a podcast would be awkwardly sexual.
Mm-hmm. It'd just be me rubbing my genitals up against my camera.
So instead of that, we're going to give each other some smaller, inconsequential news stories or themes from the year. And we're going to follow what Austin has called the challenge. You want to describe what that is?
Yeah, so when I was in middle school, you know, the way that I did school, we had elementary school, then we had a middle school, then we had junior high. So middle school was 6th grade for me. And in my 6th grade English class, we had a game that was called the challenge. And the teacher would select a student, or a volunteer would come up to the front of the classroom and would field topics and would choose a topic. It could be anything, like flying pizza boxes. And the participant in front of the classroom would have 1 minute to talk about flying pizza boxes, or whatever the topic was, and had to do so without saying or like. I mean, you could say like if you were using it for comparative purposes, but not if you were using it to stall. And if you won this challenge and you did the minute without ing, or liking, then you got an airhead. Remember those little fucking airhead candy, the long, skinny, like taffy fucking things? Sure. I don't know what they were. Yeah, those things. And you'd get an airhead. And of course, when you're 12 years old, you'll do anything for sugar in school. And that was a great game that we used to play. So that's basically what's going to structure the second half of this, is we're going to have to exhibit our feat of strength without ing, or liking. And then we'll do so rapidly. And the winner gets...
Oh, we didn't even discuss that. What does the winner get? I feel like we'll just kind of let that happen as it happens.
You know what we could do is, if there's anybody listening, the winner gets something, or the loser has a punishment that maybe anyone on Twitter or Instagram can recommend. And we'll brainstorm as well. But if anyone out there wants to participate, write in, email us, hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. Nothing that obviously is going to get anyone arrested. But other than that, I'm all for it, dude.
Yeah, crowdsource that
As long
shit.
as I don't end up deported from Ireland, anything other than that, though, I'm down. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right, yeah, let's do it. So our first segment is going to be the airing of grievances. Well, the rules are, we have first picked 5 topics each, or themes, or situations, events, whatever, that have annoyed us this year, and we're going to grade each other on ranting on our chosen topics, on the accuracy, the rantability, whatever. And yet there's obviously opportunity for corruption here, but we're going to go ahead and follow the honor system and make this work. The rule is, this can't have been a topic that we have actually used in a previous Shitty Minutes or a main topic in the on Owls at Dawn before. And then we'll grade each other on an A to F basis on the quality of the rants and the accuracy of it. Pretty simple rules, I think, right? That's all we had going.
Wait, what's the grading?
A through F.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. All right. No, that sounds good to me. So we'll flip a coin to see who starts. Does that work?
Yeah, so you're flipping it. I'm calling it?
Yeah, I have an Irish 20-cent piece. I'm holding up the camera right now. One side of the Irish 20-cent has what looks like some sort of woman in a dress. I don't know. And then on the other side, it actually says 20 cents. So the woman with the dress will be heads. The 20-cent side will be tails. Deal?
Okay.
All right. So I'm flipping it in the air. Call it?
Give me the lady.
The lady. All right. I'm going to just hold this up. It's the lady. So you get to choose.
All right. I want to see you go first.
You want to see me go first? All right. I'm ready, brother.
All right. My first topic I'm going to have you rant about is technological saviors.
Okay. Technological saviors. Well, see, here's the thing.
You know what I mean by that first?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking like Elon Musk and Sergey Brin and them that are going to kind of bring in some sort of post-scarce world of technological utopia. Is that about right?
Yeah.
So here's what's hard, though, because I'm actually torn, because a part of me really likes that stuff. For a while, I got really interested in the maker movement. As a matter of fact, I was really a part of helping out with producing a TV show that supposedly is in development somewhere. I mean, yo, if I see that shit on TV, just know my lawyers will be calling your ass. But no, no, I was a part of – I'm kidding, by the way. I am not. But I was a part of developing a TV show and some various other properties that were all about the maker movement and about individuals using open source technology, open access, open design, 3D printing, CNC machines, laser cutters – with an aim towards circumventing the traditional manufacturing hierarchical routes for product development. So little things like washing machines or homemade laundry. What are they called? Yeah, well, I guess washing machines. I was also thinking dishwashers that you can basically make with parts from a bicycle in your backyard, and you can do so way cheaper than needing to actually buy a $1,500 washing machine. Various other things like that. And so I really got into using open access and open source technology and 3D printing and whatnot to be able to develop a more sustainable form of living. And that's just like a real small scale thing. There are also these larger people that are doing like urban development and city planning. I can't remember what this one group was called, but they developed something that was basically like you just need these 20 essential tools and then you can build a fucking city from it. And they can build these 20 tools through the means of open design and whatnot. And so I got really interested in this idea. So a part of my heart is like, yeah, technology can save us. You know, I do have that optimism a little bit. I want that. I do want that. But then I also am a realist and I recognize the co-opting power of capitalism. And I realize that what capitalism does is it creates new desires simply so that it can co-opt it so it can maximize profits for the individuals who already have power. So in the Marxian sense, capitalism is really about class power expressing itself and dominating the other class in whatever way that it can as it seeks to exploit them in its own self-reproduction. So I'm torn, brother. I don't know what to say. Elon Musk, a part of me really loves the guy. I'm down with Tesla cars. I like that there's like a $30,000 model now that's a little bit more affordable for the average consumer. I think that's fucking cool. I dig the idea that there's like, you know, that Leonardo DiCaprio's helping with that town and that got destroyed by the tornado and the whole town now is like a green town. I like smart homes. I think those things are fucking cool. I think that'll help us move towards alternative energy sources. That'll help with the ecological problems or the environmental problems, and that'll also make life a little bit more convenient in some ways. You know, if I can just walk into my house and be like, cook me dinner, bitch, and then my microwave just cooks me dinner. Obviously, bitch is not a woman in that scenario. It's just my microwave, which I have, you know, just called bitch. But yeah, man, part of me seems like that's kind of cool too. So I don't know, dude. I'm torn. Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be really cool when Bill Gates helps Betsy DeVos destroy public education in America. I think technology is really going to save us when charter schools have taken over.
Well, what about, yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I wouldn't consider her a technological savior. He maybe is one of those libertarian superhero guys, but the idea of having a libertarian superhero like Bill Gates and Elon Musk requires that we have structures in place that can prevent them from teaming up with someone like a Betsy DeVos, who then has the governmental power to really cause structural problems.
Yeah, isn't that what didn't Tim Cook and Elon Musk and Bill Gates all meet with with Trump's administration like last week. And I mean, a meeting is nothing, but I mean, it does portend the future when all this stuff gets co-opted to destroy humanity rather than liberate us.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. But I fucking love the idea of technology. I love like thinking about Star Trek futures, which requires. Well, remember you talked about that Peter Phrase book, right? Where it's like if you have all of those various the four quadrants, if you have all of them, I don't remember what they were, but if you have all four of them together, then you have full communism. You have like that Star Trek future, which is awesome. Let's aim towards that shit.
But even Star Trek doesn't have that future anymore. Star Trek's just about terrorism now.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's not talk about how Star Trek sucks now, though. All right, so end of rant?
Yeah, rant over.
See, okay, I agree with everything you said, but I feel like it was a little bit off the topic because it was supposed to be about technological saviors, not about technology.
Oh, okay. I feel
focus on the actual personalities. So
okay,
I'm giving you an A for the rant because I perfectly agree with it. A C for the off topic, so I'm meeting you in the middle with a B.
I'll take it. All right, well, a B's not bad because at least you don't set the bar too high, and it gives you room to improve. So I'll take it. All right. Are you ready, my friend?
Yeah.
We also got to keep an eye on the clock. We don't want these to go too long. If you go over the 3-minute mark, there should be, I'm thinking a full grade penalty.
Oh, yeah. Now you include that after you already
I'm pretty sure I was within the time limit. I was watching my time. All right.
I'll watch my time. I'll watch it.
Okay. We'll watch our time here. All right. So my first one for you, T-Roy, is the controversy over the phrasing radical Islamic terrorism.
Oh, so this has to do with the whether or not you actually say the words?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Whenever you're ready, brother.
All right. Fuck words. It doesn't matter what words you use. Radical Islamist terrorism, jihad. You want to talk about Wahhabism. Let's just have some historical context to what actually is happening rather than to focus on what labels we're going to lay on things. I mean, obviously, those who are coming from the right saying that you got to use the words radical Islamic terrorism or else you're not going to know what you're fighting is stupid. Right? I mean, these are the same people who didn't know the difference between Shia and Sunni in Islam in the first place, which completely fucked us in Iraq anyway. So that obviously comes off as bad faith, and we shouldn't hold that have any credence whatsoever as a critique. But also on the left, the whole idea of we're going to be nice and not say words like radical Islamist terrorism. I fully get where they're coming from, and that you don't want to paint with such a broad brush that you end up alienating those who you can get on your side. Fully get it. But to die on the hill of a word also is not getting to the actual point that needs to be got to, right? We got to focus on actual historical understanding of how different groups have evolved and have been created, have been influenced by U.S. foreign policy, and focus on those aspects, and then craft our foreign policy around that stuff. And then maybe, imperialist wars would be a bad idea in general, rather than focusing on terminology by itself. So I get the argument from the left and from the center about not using these words. And I tend not to use those words either because they tend to be more obscure and tested than they are actually helpful. But that also has to be replaced with actual historical understanding of these groups and where they come from in the first place, and not just a series of nice words or labels for things, which doesn't actually help anything other than satisfy this moral posturing among centrist liberals that, we're the good guys and we're not the ones who want to stoke xenophobia and racism, while secretly supporting foreign policy that ends up just as consequentially xenophobic and destructive towards people in other nations as anything that the right wing wants to do. So fuck words.
Did you get a look at my list beforehand? That felt a little too polished for me. Did you?
No, man. That was off the cuff.
Did you get some Russian spies to hack my shit, dude? Shit, you've been hacking my thing. All right, dude. Yeah, I got to give you an A on that because you covered all the things that I was curious to see what your thoughts were on either side. And I was thinking about this too, dude. Doesn't it seem weird? It just seems that it's like two people are being stubborn. And you know how when people get into a fight, like you watch those videos on YouTube of people getting into road rage fights or whatever, and they're like, you cut me off. And they're like, no, fuck you, you cut me off. And it's like, no, really, you cut me off. And they're like, oh, so what? And then it's like, no, you cut me off. And they're like, yeah, whatever, man. Well, you shouldn't have made that illegal lane change. And they're like, I didn't make the illegal lane change. I was doing this because this happened. They're like, well, fuck you. It was your fault. And it's like, wait, no, you just said this. And then I just told you that didn't happen. And then you're just looking for another reason to yell at me. I feel like that's what's going on. It's like They just want to like hold on to their position so tightly that they don't even give a fuck what's coming at them from the other side. There is no genuine dialogue at all. It's just, I have my position. You must say these words. And the other side is like, we have our position. We shan't say those words. And then they just fucking fight with each other. And it's like, it's maddening. You know, there's no movement in any direction. It's like they're just at loggerheads. And I can't fucking stand that shit, man.
Yeah, it's all bad faith. There's no good faith dialogue or understanding whatsoever.
Nothing, dude. Fucking nothing. Oh, God. All right, next up.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, this one will be interesting because it's something that annoys me, but I don't know how much it annoys you.
Okay.
So we'll see how this works out.
Okay.
This is not necessarily now, but during the summer, especially during the primary season,
Okay.
the cult of personality surrounding Bernie Sanders.
Mm.
And what I mean by this is not his policies, because I'm as much of a Bernie guy as anybody.
Right.
But I did see a phenomenon of people focusing a lot more on the person of Bernie than on actual policy proposals or ideas that Bernie supported.
Mm. Yeah. So I'm gonna be graceful with my tone on this rant because I feel like the tone of the rant plays into the content of the rant itself because I love Bernie Sanders. And I may be one of those individuals who has fallen into a little bit of that cult of personality, especially in a defensive position when the Black Lives Matter movement or when a large portion of the black community was supporting Hillary and said that they didn't really see how or why Bernie Sanders would have been the better or more preferable candidate. And I would be like, but there are literally pictures of this motherfucker chained up with civil rights activists. So he's also got some fucking ethical fiber, like some strong moral fiber and commitment. So I kind of dig the dude. Plus, I think the fact that he was Jewish, I'm kind of like, hey, man, that's kind of cool. We've never had a Jewish president, and I kind of want to stick my finger up to the waspy American elites, so that's kind of nice too. But I get where you're coming from, because the ultimate problem is that what it does is it romanticizes and fetishizes and deflects then from the possibility of creating a genuine social movement. Because genuine social movements have to be something that's spread both from a bottom-up and from a top-down perspective. So there have to be individuals at the level of policy. There have to be individuals who are seeking to restructure the infrastructures at the governmental level. That has to take place. But at the same time, we also need to be aware of the power of ideological control or governmentality in the Foucauldian sense, right? That is disciplining bodies in a dispersive sense that's taking place within the institutions themselves at the educational level or within the level of mental health or within the system of finance, things that Bernie unfortunately was not equipped enough to talk about because he's just a nice new dealer. He's not really genuinely a sort of future-oriented, hopeful socialist thinker. And so in that sense, there was an unwillingness to even criticize anything he said because there was this romanticization of this single figure, right? And it was often pitted that there's like the Trump is Darth Vader and Bernie is the Jewish Luke Skywalker. And unfortunately, I think that actually did a lot of damage because it deflected from the possibility of actually creating a social movement where people cared about other things outside of just the banks are bad, the 1% is bad, and we got to put our support behind this guy, rather than a dispersive, genuine group activity or social movement of solidarity standing across racial lines, across gender lines, and something that would actually motivate and mobilize a genuine workers or a genuine, I guess we could say a genuine civil movement. So, yeah, that's my rant. My nice rant.
Ooh, 2 seconds to spare. No, dude, that was... I couldn't have said it better myself. That's A-quality rant right there. And you even brought in some governmentality stuff from Foucault. I wasn't even thinking about that. That was good.
Yeah, and it sucks too because I think I actually like Bernie now more after the election because he hasn't quit. And even though he's still a little too nice to Hillary, not as a human, I don't mean, obviously, I think we should be nice to humans, but I think he's still a little too soft with talking about how the Electoral College needs to be abolished and Hillary would have won under these circumstances. Like, I think he needs to just fucking stop trying to be a Democrat. you know, and just be the pro-worker, pro-union workers. I said that twice, but the pro-worker, pro-union, pro-equality voice that he is, without trying to toe any party line at all. You know, that's the only thing. I mean, I love the platform that he has, but I just wish that I don't know. I feel like he's trying to be too friendly to the bipartisan system.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like his plan all along was always that for being called an ideologue, he's the most pragmatic person I feel like in the room all the time. Because he's always said, you know, and when he's being candid, that moving the Democratic Party left and getting the progressives in the party in power is the way forward in the near term. And that's exactly what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
He now has a seat at the table in the party, even though he's only been a Democrat for like less than a year. Keith Ellison is now like going to be a kind of party leader in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren, et cetera, et cetera. That's the way forward for change, and that's what he's been about and he's been doing, and he's achieving pretty well for a guy who wasn't a Democrat until 2016, I think. Right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. All right, moving on. All right, so my next one is about fake news. Troy, why don't you do a little talking about fake news?
Oh man, this is going to preempt what we're going to do for an episode next year, but hopefully people will forget about that after the drunken holiday. But fake news has always been fake, is the thing. News itself, I mean, I don't want to get into some like Nietzschean, there are no facts, there are only interpretations, but actually I already did, so I'm going to do that anyway. There are no facts, there is no news, there is only fake news, in the words of Nietzsche. We have always had fake news. News has always been owned by corporations with specific corporate interests, and their editorial boards always have specific interests in mind. Nothing is the newsroom where some coiffed, blonde, 60-year-old man decides that he's going to produce the most informed electorate that's ever been known, and they're going to make the most rational of choices for their country's benefit that's ever been seen. That's a liberal managerial utopia that does not ever exist and can't even exist. News has always been interested in certain ends. There has never been a time where there were individuals who only sought out the facts of the matter and made decisions based upon that. Even, obviously, from the Republican side, Reagan and Bush weren't quite as ready to jump the gun and lie profusely as Trump and those news sites that he sort of feeds from do, clearly. I mean, I don't think anyone's disputing that. But we did kind of go into two major wars based upon fake news. So I'm going to say that was pretty bad. And we kind of had the whole, if you remember the welfare queens stuff that Reagan was pushing, that was pretty clearly some form of fake news, right? And liberals have been about the same thing, just in a bit of a more circuitous way. Centrist liberalism has always been about, there is only one set of facts, and that's that this liberal centrist managerial way, supporting capitalism, but with a little bit on the sides to help people, a little safety net there, is the only truth. It's the Francis Fukuyama end of history stuff. And that's, that ideology situates how you produce news. This is the only way to do these things. It's not as obvious as, what was the Pizzagate thing? Is it called Pizzagate?
Yeah, Pizzagate.
Yeah, nothing as obvious and kind of ignorant as that, clearly. But it's still a form of fake news. And just going to drop that, hey, we're going to have We Have Always Been Post-Truth episode early next year. This is a little bit of my thoughts about that preemptively.
Well, extra points for your marketing ploy and advertising for the future episodes. I like that. Yeah. I mean, we're in 100. This is going to be the most ridiculous thing. I'm going to start grading you on a tougher scale because I'm going to go with pluses and minuses now. Because I feel like we're going to agree with each other on a lot of these things. So I think we're going to probably end up in the A-B range for most things that we do. So I'm going to have to get a little bit tighter. I'm going to give you an A-, just because I want to be.
I thought I deserved a B+, so I'll take that.
Okay, yeah, I was going to give you an A-. One thing I would have said is, and I think it's so crucial to even talk about with regards to the news, is that the audience is not the viewers, I should say, is not the actual client. We are not the intended audience. We are not the target audience. We are viewers, but we are actually the product. We are the product that is sold to advertisers. And so that's really the ultimate problem. Is that's what I think that this whole idea of fake news needs to hit on, that people don't ever talk about. That really the only person that I know of that talks about this constantly is Noam Chomsky and whoever the co-author was of Manufacturing Consent, right? Is they talk about this. And I think that when I first heard that, I think I was like, gosh, I was definitely at Masters, and I was, I think it like rocked my world. I was like, holy fuck, that's true. And now it's even more the case, right? Especially with we understand how social media and how Google are collecting big data just so they can sell it off to their clients. We are not. They don't give a fuck about us. We are just simply the eyeballs that they need so that they can sell us. And that just demonstrates how you could not have an objective purpose in your news source, because it's just simply about sensationalism and using meme culture and big, trending topics and words. And what do they call it? Clickbait. Right? That's all fucking news is clickbait. So fuck that shit.
Yeah, you're right, man. If I really wanted to propitiate the god here, I should have dropped in Chomsky.
Yeah.
I would have done it.
You would have gotten an A. Okay, next up. What are we doing?
All right, next one. We've mentioned it before. We didn't do an actual topic on this. Okay. Echo chambers.
Oh, fuck. Okay. So this is actually something that is really near and dear to my heart, in the sense, because the way that I view echo chambers is the way that I understand seriality, right? It is a serial form of logic, which basically is Sartre's idea. Seriality is the social condition of alienation lived under what he calls a milieu of scarcity, or what we could simply just refer to as the conditions of capitalism, even though it's much more complex than that. Simply stated, under a life of market ideology, what we have is serial alienation. It is the idea that we are all fragmented from each other, we're all isolated, we're all in competition from one another, and what Sartre ultimately talks about is how what that produces, it produces what he calls, or actually Elizabeth Butterfield, who's a reader of Sartre, calls it affective a prioris. Sartre then calls it serial logics. And it's this idea that the words that we say, the things that we think, the emotions that we feel are themselves determined by this alienating, isolating, and competitive logic, which means that we just become these tribal, collective motherfuckers who just stand in our own little in-groups and just repeat memes. That's it. It's just mimesis, man. So we just have to repeat memes. So echo chambers drive me fucking crazy, because literally it's just people wanking each other off in a circle jerk at like some sort of level where they think they're actually producing something constructive in political discourse, and they're not at all. All they're doing is making the other side mad, and then the other side's an echo chamber. And then what happens is you just get heightened emotion. I have gone down the rabbit hole the last few days. This is why I was talking about road rage. I've gone down the rabbit hole of watching some road rage videos, and these motherfuckers are just crazy. They just yell at each other for no reason. They're like, you cut me off. No, you cut me off. Well, I didn't mean to cut you off. And it's like, doesn't matter. You cut me off. And the guy's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, well, you fucking cut me off. And he just wants to yell at him and beat him over the head. And it's because we don't understand how to goddamn communicate with anybody else that's different from us. So we just need to fucking sit within our tribes. And I don't believe that human beings are necessarily as tribal as we're forced to being. I think it's because of the constructs that are placed upon us because of this serial conditioning. And it kind of drives me crazy. Now, with that said, I do think the word is stupid, and I'm getting bored of people talking about echo chambers. Like, we already get it, bro. I mean, it's just kind of obvious. So let's shut the fuck up. It's like the word – I made a joke on Facebook about the cliche political terms of 2016, and that was one of my cliche political terms. So as much as I get frustrated that people do live in their echo chambers, I also think the word is dumb. Let's move on. We get it. Let's have better analysis of what an echo chamber actually is, and let's explain why it is that people feel the need to be in these echo chambers, and then let's try to dissolve it and figure out how we can break beyond those bounds. Done.
I have a feeling you're going to school me in the feats of strength, dude. You're just way more energized than I am. Okay, so I was going to give you a B+, and then you brought it around at the end and said the whole thing is fucking stupid. That bumps you to an A- for there.
Okay,
the only thing keeping you from an A is that I actually... I've talked about this, I think, last week. Echo chambers are kind of good, too.
You think so?
Like, I don't... In the sense that, like, I don't want to find out about stuff that I hate. Like, muting people on Twitter.
Yeah.
Deleting Facebook altogether. I guess that's not an echo chamber. That's destruction of the chamber. But Yeah, I mean, there's a sense in which I think you can defend echo chambers a little bit.
Yeah, see, I'm not a fan. Ultimately, I'm not. I think I'm too hopeful about the possibility for cross-tribal dialogue. You know, like, dude, when I was an evangelical Christian, every single Friday night I used to go street witnessing, and for me, I loved being able to communicate with my Muslim friends. Well, they became friends, and they would come and see me every Friday night because they would want to talk with me and argue with me. But I wasn't the inflammatory type. I wanted to talk with them and understand them and have them understand me, and let's find that mutual ground, and then let's build on that. And then you get the radical atheist, scientist, grad student from UCLA that wanted to just like yell at me, even when I was never really a sort of like young Earth creationist type. You know, they would want to yell at me. I'd be like, hold on. I get it. Other evangelicals say this shit. Other Christians say this shit. But let's try to work through these things at a deeper level. And I love that. And for me, it was really profitable. Not only, who knows if I had any sort of impact on anybody else. Hopefully not in the sense that I made them feel guilty and run to church and now they're scarred evangelicals for the rest of their lives. But maybe there was a sense in which that agonistic discussion probably had some impact on me and creating empathic connections with other people. So I don't know. That's my whole thing.
All right, next grievance is Austin's eternal optimism.
All right, so my next one for you. Are you ready? This is one we didn't really get to talk about, and I'm not sure if this is a rant so much, but I am curious of your thoughts on it. The glass ceiling, with reference to the woman president discussion. Is there what can we do? Can we move through this glass ceiling? Do you like this phrase? Has the glass ceiling been broken? Is this something that was just used as clickbait? However you want to take this discussion, I'm just curious because the glass ceiling was another one of those popular 2016 terms.
Is that I'm trying to remember? Is that the idea that women in the workforce can they can be involved, but they can't get across or get through this ceiling of equality?
Yeah, but that eventually you can smash through it, right? You can see through it, you can see above it, but you can't get above it because it's still pushing you down.
And so does this come from like a liberal centrist
pretty much, yeah,
point of view?
Yeah.
Oh shit, man, this is gonna take a little bit of thought.
You don't have a little bit of thought. You got 5 seconds.
All right,
and
here we go.
Go.
I'm gonna earn myself like less than an A here. I'm pretty sure. So metaphors. Just don't do metaphors in politics. You do a metaphor in politics, guess what's going to happen? It's going to get stretched beyond its scope to the point where it's no longer workable, rational, able to actually communicate effectively its idea. In the case of the glass ceiling, is there a ceiling seemingly on what women can earn, benefits they can procure in the workforce? Of course there is. Is there equality? Of course there's not. Should there be? Of course there should be. Is the way to do that like some lean in type bullshit? I still don't even know what that word means. It's another metaphor that doesn't really make any sense when you get down to it and just obscures issues more than it actually helps to kind of think of lines of flights to get through them, away from them. And I don't even remember what the hell the glass ceiling was supposed to be about. But my idea is fuck metaphors. Instead of using them to picture stuff, let's just talk about the fact that it's actually the social structures underneath that are producing these things. Women are sort of dealt with unequally in the workforce for all of American history. And you're not going to get away from that by, say, electing a women president or, mandating that certain major industries have to have women. Bernie was talking about this when Trump actually developed a cabinet that had more women and black men and people of color than would be expected for his cabinet. And yet, does anybody sort of softened by that? Is anybody optimistic about that? That Ben Carson and Betsy DeVos are on his cabinet? Of course not. Bernie was talking about how when you have more gender and racial equality simply for its own sake, you basically achieve nothing other than, in the biblical phrase, is the biblical phrase lipstick on a pig, or is it the pearls on the swine?
Pearls before swine is definitely biblical.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if I'm using that. Again, I'm using a metaphor, which is a stupid one. To illustrate my point, I'm going to do a little, reductio ad absurdum here by using it to prove it. We shouldn't be doing that. Let's just focus on actual social equality as a means for general equality amongst everybody, from the social system at the bedrock, the structure of itself, capitalism replaced by socialism, and then from there diligently work to make equality happen.
10 seconds to spare. You were coming up, you were coming up there. I was like chomping at the bit. I thought I was going to get to mark you down a whole score.
I don't know, man. That was not my best.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. We'll give you a B plus. We'll give you a B plus. The reason is because content was good. Content was good. You were circling around a bunch of different things. I fully agree, man. It seems like, again, all of these terms. I feel like these metaphors and these terms that are used that then we get angry about, or that we then reproduce through meme culture, are all a part of this weird serial logic, right? We can't think out with the tools that the system gives us, and it's this very limited and limiting set of parameters by which we're allowed to think. And I think that ultimately we are limited because of sort of social conditioning and biological conditioning. Obviously, we talked about that previously. I don't believe in any sort of radical freedom, but I do believe that there are ways that we can unravel the intensity or the levels of degrees that this limitation imposes or impinges upon us, right? And just all of these metaphors that are thrown around, they don't seem to fucking produce anything useful. And yeah, there is a glass ceiling, and it fucking sucks. And I'm a white dude that has never had to experience anything other than I'm a fucking privileged motherfucker from Orange County. So I can understand that people would want to use that as maybe a useful term, that we will break this glass ceiling. But I feel like a lot of times it isn't used in a productive sense. It kind of just is used for people to chase their own tail in political discourse. Man, yeah, metaphors all over the place here.
Yeah, man. When you use metaphors as your argument, you miss the point. Like, the metaphor is supposed to be an illustration of the argument to help it make it clearer. It doesn't replace the argument itself. If you use metaphors as argument, all you're doing is convincing people who already agree with you. Like that Skittles bullshit that happened earlier in the year with Donald Trump Jr.
What was that?
The Skittles thing.
Oh, about the poisonous Skittle? The one, if there's one poisonous Skittle, get rid of them all?
Yeah, I should have minted about that.
Yep.
When you use these things not as illustrations but as the argument themselves, it's just obscurantist. And it only actually sort of convinces and persuades people who are already in the choir.
Well, right, because then other people are like, well, that's a stupid metaphor, and they don't listen to the rest of the argument. And we love to do that for whatever reason, because of that weird tribal serial echo chamber, whatever kind of logic you want to, or whatever term you want to apply to it. It is that serial logic where we're looking for any excuse that we can to just call the other person a hypocrite, or to just basically say, well, that's stupid. See, the metaphor falls apart. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then they can just live comfortably in their own presuppositional situation. Like, that's no good. That's no good. All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to feel.
I think we do one more each. For time's sake?
Yeah, one more each. That works for me.
All right. So my next one is this will be a good one, because I'm interested to hear. We haven't talked about this for certain reasons in the podcast.
Okay.
Slavoj Žižek's turn to full-on contrarian of the left in its entirety.
See, I feel a little inadequate because Slavoj Žižek was always kind of more your guy than my guy. So I've dipped in and out of Žižek. I read Sublime Object of Ideology and a couple other various things, and I've watched a lot of his YouTube videos. But I guess I'd never have seen a radical turn because I kind of always thought he was a contrarian. He has always said inflammatory things, and he's always kind of been the Elvis philosopher. Isn't that what they called him? The Elvis of philosophers or some shit like that. He's always been the guy that was the cool guy, the different guy. He wasn't the rigorous thinker, even though some people, obviously, I know you took him very serious as a thinker, and a lot of people have, but he wasn't viewed that way by most people. He was always viewed as sort of this inflammatory political philosopher. So when he said his thing about Trump, for instance, that he never said he would support Trump. I think that was one of the things that was taken out of context. He never said, I support Trump. He just was sort of musing about the idea that maybe it would be better if Trump wins, because that would sort of wake people up from the dogmatic slumber of bipartisan nothingness, bipartisan inactivity, which is the same thing that fucking Susan Sarandon said a few months ago, remember? And everyone on the left was like, yeah, Susan Sarandon. And then they got mad when Slavoj Žižek says it. You remember that? when Susan Sarandon said that?
I remember her saying it. I don't remember everyone being happy about it.
Oh, I remember a lot of people on the left were like, fuck yeah, Susan Sarandon. That's right. Maybe Trump should win, bring in the revolution. But nobody was really, I mean, except for these sort of center-left liberal commentators were kind of like, no, how dare her, because they wanted Hillary to win. And so they had their own sort of biases for criticizing her. But I kind of get where Zizek was coming from. And I think he was just simply trying to be a critical theorist and say, maybe this is the case. If Trump wins, then maybe we can actually genuinely have something in America to shake up our comfortable dogmatic foundations. And to be completely honest, I don't see why that's such a far-fetched suggestion, because look at what has happened. There has been a shakeup. There is more interest in leftist activity in the United States of America and in the UK because of Brexit, because of the Corbyn shit going on over in the UK, and because of Trump and Bernie Sanders in the United States than I can remember in my lifetime. So while I never want to use a sort of means-end logic, because as we talked about on election night, that could also mean in real material terms that people die and that people suffer and that people's actual political and socioeconomic standings suffer. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'm not surprised, man. That's just kind of how he rolls. And maybe history will justify that he was right in the end. I have 1 second left. I'm done.
Good, because I couldn't even remember where you started. So, so you went like the most. That was kind of ironic because you did like the most Zizek thing by being contrarian to the own grievance you were presented with.
Mm-hmm.
So now,
for style points,
like,
you got to give me style points then.
I give you style points for that format decision, even though it may have been off the cuff and you didn't realize it. I don't know, or maybe you did. Doesn't matter what your intent was. Still, I feel like you had to have something about the refugee stuff in there.
Oh yeah,
that was the big one.
Oh
yeah, the big one was the refugee stuff in Europe and his anti-centrist Europeanism, or whatever the fuck it's called. That's a pretty big thing. So I'm giving you a B+ down from the A because of that.
Yeah, that's big content.
I mean, that's probably my fault because I didn't mention it, but whatever. Fuck that. It's your fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. Come on, man.
Your fault for not reminding me to mention that.
We read all the same shit. I should know. We follow the same blogs. Okay. Last one. So John McCain has recently made a statement, and then Cenk Unger, is that how you say his name, from the Young Turks? Cenk?
From Young Turks, yeah.
Yeah, Cenk has sort of been talking about this as well, and it's the idea that civilization is unraveling. Now, this kind of actually fits together with a book that Zizek wrote, actually, about, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, or what did he call them? The 4 sort of conditions that would lead to, the destruction of the world or whatever? What was it?
Yeah, the secular end times.
Yeah, the secular end times shit. But so John McCain is saying that civilization is unraveling. Cenk Unger is kind of saying something similar. Cenk means something different than what McCain means. But then evangelicals have been saying this for the last, 100 years? So what I wonder is just this idea that civilization is even a thing and that it is unraveling. What are your thoughts on this idea? Is there such a thing as civilization? If so, is it unraveling? Is it improving? Do we believe in progress? What is civilization? Go ahead, Troy. The reins are yours.
I have 3 minutes on this?
Yeah.
You brought up like 6 different questions. You're setting me up for a fall, motherfucker.
No. But I'm also giving you just a panoply of options. So you could just like grasp at anything and then maybe something will strike and then that's fine.
All right, I'm going full highbrow on this.
Okay.
Civilization has been unraveling because civilization is the unraveling of civilization.
Mm.
So I'm going straight biblical to the catacon. Remember the catacon?
Mm.
The thing that holds back man of lawlessness in the end times, and was 2 Thessalonians or whatever. Agamben talks about this in a number of his books. That he secularizes, talks about the political catacon. Like when we were studying in like evangelical circles, the catacon was supposed to be like the Holy Spirit or whatever. It's holding back this end times from actually coming through because it's like this natural end for things. And I always thought the secularization of that was really interesting. Because then you start to see civilization itself as the holding back of the unraveling. And so, in a sense, this kind of like end of history, neoliberalism type stuff is the catacon, right? It's sort of like if we don't go through with neoliberalization and privatization of social spaces and tax cuts to the wealthy and globalization and free trade to benefit only corporate interests and not for regular people. so on and so forth, then that will produce an end time scenario of like, Soviet socialism takes over the world, or constant wars, or whatever. And so that's the catacon is actually neoliberalism holding back at the end. And that's clearly like a lie, right? There's no deterministic forces making civilization go one way or another. Civilization is just a bunch of people, men and women, people together making choices, and then you aggregate all those choices together and you have the total of everything. There's not a lot of sense to talking about some grand, force that produces all these things. That's a very like quasi-religious and nefarious ideology. So instead of talking about that stuff, let's just say, we don't make our choices based upon conditions of our own choosing, but we do make our choices within those conditions. So let's figure out the conditions. Let's figure out how they structure where we are and the choices that we have, and then make the best choices possible to make a better future. Any sense of which civilization is unraveling is usually a clarion call to people to sort of pick up their pitchforks, whether physically or ideologically, and defend the status quo in one way or another. Which, fuck that. So
yeah, I dig it, man. You went straight up old school there. You brought up some nostalgia for me, talking about biblical scholarship and stuff like that. Yeah, you get it.
I honestly had no idea what you were talking about in terms of McCain and the dude from Young Turks comments. I hadn't heard that at all.
Yeah, but I think you get it. You know what they're saying, right? It's the idea of progress. So Cenk is a progressive in the liberal sense, even though he wants to think that he's belongs to the revolutionary left to some extent. He's not. He's a very, very moderate, liberal, sort of progressive left dude. And for him, it's this idea of progress. So he sees the financial collapse and rising inequality in the economic sphere and racial tension and stuff like that as being the unraveling of civilization, which means that civilization has been previously raveled, right? That there was, and I don't think he would ever say that. He would never say, because he's obviously very hesitant to align with any sort of like nostalgic America was great previously. But nevertheless, I think civilization, even as an idea, is something that he sees as it being threatened or unraveled by some sort of weird liberal notion of what it means to be civilized. And then for McCain, it kind of has something similar. Obviously, evangelicals like to talk about the moral decline of American culture because we're moving further and further away from the traditional waspy characteristics that defined our country. But I love the idea because you kind of just did a deconstruction on the idea of the unraveling altogether. And I actually have never read a Gambin. And so I've only ever read blogs from Adam Kotsko. So if you're listening, what up, Adam? Thank you. Because I only know a Gambin through you. But yeah, so I've only ever heard like very briefly, and I didn't even remember that he used it until you mentioned it. So you get an A for that shit because you
nice, dude.
Stimulated my mind. You tickled my philosophical pickle, Troy.
I knew this would get sexy somewhere. All right, so let's go to a quick little break, and we'll come back with the feats of strength, our rapid fire round of rants.
Yep.
All right, so now we're going to do our feats of strength. This will be a rapid fire series of shitty minute rants, and they're going to be 1 minute maximum. And the rules here will be that you have to go as long as possible without pausing for more than like a second, an unnatural pause.
A natural
conversation,
pause, right.
basically.
Exactly.
Or an or some sort of, what do you call those terms? The actual like terms that produce cadence in the conversation.
I don't know what
There's
they're
probably
called.
A term for it.
I'm sure there is.
Whatever those things are called. You can't
I don't know.
All right, so you went first last time, so I'll go first this time.
Okay, sounds good. So I feed you a
These are
topic.
going to be things, inconsequential things that sort of have upset you or pissed you off this year, and I'm going to rant about them for a minute.
Now, do they always? But wait, do they have to have all pissed me off, or can they just be things that I kind of want to hear you, feat of strength about?
Who gives a fuck? Just do whatever.
Okay, yeah, good. Okay, so my first one is, and I can never get her name right, but I think it's Tommy Lahren and Trevor Noah. They had their interview. Troy, what were your thoughts on the interview?
I didn't see it.
That's perfect. That's perfect. What do you think about them getting together and having an interview?
She was like an alt-writer or something, or he.
She's that blonde chick that does the Blaze. That's really angry. She kind of does a Jim Rome is Burning, but with conservative political commentary.
Okay.
Have you ever seen her?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know who that is.
Okay.
But I'm also going to say kind of I don't like Trevor Noah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's super charismatic and he has like the most beautiful smile ever. And I think I might like change my sexual orientation for him. But at the same time, I mean, the show is just like, it's bad.
There was an
news.
There was an
What?
You just dropped an What happens?
What? Are you serious?
You dropped an
Oh, man.
Dude,
Well, I said it was bad. That was something.
Can we get... yes. Okay. What's
What
next?
the officials
My
say?
turn. Go. You have to pick a topic.
Okay. The idea that like people like Beyonce are like a social prophet.
Yeah, when did this ever happen that we care about what celebrities, hip-hop artists, rock musicians, like Ted Nugent and people of his ilk, that they actually matter in the world of political discourse? What it really, you know what it ends up leading to is Kanye West talking about wanting to run for president in 2020. That's what it leads to. That's fucking terrible. But with that said, I also do think, not that these actors and actresses and social media personalities should be prophets, but I do think that having grown up in the arts and been around a lot of musicians and actors, they are very educated. So I'm torn because I don't want to elevate them to the status of, like you said, the prophet. But at the same time, I also do think that they're not morons. Like Leonardo DiCaprio, he's a sharp motherfucker. When he talks about the environment, he's been involved at a very high level, not just with understanding the science, but also with engaging at the level of policy for a very long time. And those dudes are kind of cool, man. I dig Leo. I ain't going to hate on Leo. That's all I'm going to say. I love me some Leo.
All right.
Now for you. What are the Warriors' chances of becoming champions in the NBA this year with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry? Are they going to stay healthy? Go.
Well, I mean, I can't predict they're going to stay healthy. If they stay healthy, they are unquestionably going to win the championship. You can bet on that right now. Send me emails, send me hate mail, whatever the fuck you want. They're going to win the championship as long as their top four guys are healthy. If that's not the case, then it's a little bit of a free-for-all. I would never guess against LeBron in a situation where he would have the ability to do what he did last year, which was like the greatest performance I think I've ever seen by a basketball player, including Michael Jordan in my youth. That said, if all four of the major Warriors players, we're talking about Durant, Curry, Green, Thompson, are healthy, they're beating LeBron in the finals, and handily. So not even 7 games. I'm putting that down right now.
Ooh, I kind of want to throw some money down on this now. Not really, because I kind of agree with you.
All right, next one.
Yep.
The top grossing films of 2016 that were not animated kids films were Captain America, Batman vs. Superman, Deadpool, Suicide Squad, Fantastic Beasts, and Doctor Strange. What up with that?
I didn't even see, I think, any of them. No, I didn't see any of them. Oh, wait, I saw Suicide Squad, and it was pretty fucking terrible. Yeah, it's terrible. The next year is going to be really interesting, too. I mean, well, we do have Rogue One, but the problem is it's going to start at the end of 16 into 17, and so it's not going to be able to crack into the top 5 or 7 or whatever. I don't know, man. This goes back to your shitty minute from the very first episode where you talked about how we need superheroes of the left. All of these superhero films, first of all, it's kind of just diluting the quality of narrative storytelling in film, and I think that kind of is frustrating. And 2, it is kind of boring that our superheroes themselves are kind of boring. I'm kind of ready for something new. That's why I think this Rogue One film is going to be super interesting, because it actually has a sort of weird proletarian revolution, even though I haven't seen it yet, but from everyone's telling me, I want to see it. So I think that we need something a little more interesting and intriguing with blockbuster films. Like, what's his name? Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk, this big World War II epic. That'll be interesting. He always has weird, interesting philosophical themes in all of his films. We need more of that shit. Let's get some more of that shit going on. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Donald Trump talking about his penis size in public debates. What you think about that?
I was kind of cool with it. I don't mind the fact that we're bringing penises into presidential politics. I mean, do you really want to have your future president not have sort of a sort of spoken interlocutor debates with somebody about his penis size? Don't you want to know that before you elect somebody? Are you just going to guess based upon his hands size and just be like, you know what, I'm going to make my vote not knowing whether or not he has a small or large or average penis? Now at least we all know it's a small penis because he had to say it out loud.
That's right.
Which means we have that knowledge. We're a more informed electorate because of it, and yet we still chose him, which basically means dudes with big trucks and small penises can really get far in America these days. That's a message of hope for many American white males.
That means that all my homies back in Orange County that I grew up with, don't worry, you too can become president one day. Now,
Exactly.
there was a little in there, but I wanted to let it slide because I was so interested. Apparently, he's not the first president to talk openly about his penis. In an episode of Adam Ruins Everything, he actually mentions how I think it was Dwight Eisenhower, or maybe it was, Ike Johnson. Don't remember. It was one of them that constantly talked about his penis and apparently had a big dick and actually had a nickname for it and would just whip it out sometimes.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days when you could just sexually harass people in the men's bathroom.
All right, next one. California's seasonal wildfires.
Ooh, this actually hits close to home because close to home for you in particular. I'll get there in a second. But I grew up on a canyon in Orange County that was just filled with dry brush. And every single, well, I don't want to say every year, but every 2 or 3 years we would get a fire that would reach that canyon. And it was tiring, man. Motherfuckers, stop lighting matches and burning houses down, yo. This shit sucks. I remember I had to evacuate my house one time. We had to get our dog out of there and our birds out of there. And we went to some place in the Anaheim Hills that was like a family fun center, which was cool for me because I got to play arcades and shit like that for a long time. But still, it sucked because our houses were threatened. Now, Troy, you can explain this in detail after I sum up here in about the next 10 seconds. You actually had a fire within a football field length from your house. You sent me a picture, and it was like just on the other side of the hill. You could see flames from your fucking house, and you got evacuated. That sucks ass, man. Yo, people.
I got evacuated in the middle of the fucking semester.
Yeah, motherfuckers, stop lighting matches. And then, they're not just in California, but didn't you hear about the ones in Tennessee? I mean, hundreds of people get evacuated and dozens of homes got burned down. Fuck you. If you burn a fucking field of dry brush because you think it's funny or something like that, fuck you.
That was powerful.
All right. Next one. What are your thoughts on breastfeeding in public, Troy?
Who doesn't like breastfeeding in public? What the hell is wrong with you? Breastfeeding is an entirely natural thing. I'm not going to defend the idea that because it's natural, it's good. It's a naturalistic fallacy. Yeah, I know. Thanks, G.E. Moore. Shut the fuck up. At the same time, there's nothing wrong with breastfeeding in public. It's purely natural. The kid has to get the milk. They're just boobs. Fucking people should have boobs out in the middle of the world anyway. Why can't a guy walk around with his shirt off and no one gives a shit? But then if a woman walks with her shirt off, all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, like the nature has been disrupted and we're all gonna die. The entire idea is stupid. I think is it in New York? At least in one of the boroughs, it's actually legal. Women can be topless because someone sued the state or the city because men are allowed to be topless but women aren't, and that's gender discrimination. So women should be allowed to be topless. I think it's somewhere in New York. Don't quote me if that's not correct. But that's really the way it should be anyway. Like, what the fuck? Boobs are amazing. Why do we have to over-sexualize them to the point where they're like, a dick is kind of weird looking and disgusting. I don't want to see dicks all the time. So I'm okay with us saying, you know what, don't be naked out in public. But there's nothing about boobs that's problematic in that way. They're nice looking for the most part. They don't like cause anything negative to happen when they're out in public. Let's just not care so much about boobs.
See, I don't even care about dicks, man. Whatever. They're not nice looking, but they don't offend me.
They don't offend me, but I don't want to be seeing dicks all the time.
Yeah, see, I don't care. Whatever. All right, what's next? You got another one? Let's do one more each, yeah? I
got 2 more you got to do.
Okay, 2 more.
So the fact that the Lakers sucked so hard at the beginning of this year and sucked so hard at the end of this year, what up with that?
You're not talking about the 2016 basketball season?
Last season and this season.
Are they sucking right now again?
They've lost like 9 of 10.
You and I just had a conversation a little bit ago, and you were telling me how excited you were about how well they've been playing.
And that was before this happened.
All right, so here's the deal. I've actually always had a problem with Los Angeles sports, and here's my theory. I went to an NBA Finals Game 6, or maybe it was Game 5, the Lakers against the Detroit Pistons, the year that the Lakers had Karl Malone and Gary Payton, and they were supposed to win everything, and they ended up losing to Detroit. But this game that I went to in LA was amazing because it was the game that Kobe hit that buzzer beater at the end of regulation to tie it and then send it into overtime, and then they won. So that was really exciting, at least that I got to go to a fun game. I think that was the only game they won that series, isn't it?
It was the only game that they won, yeah.
Jesus, or maybe. But anyway, the thing is I was so disappointed sitting in the stands halfway through the first quarter, and I shit you not, there were 1,000 seats still empty. Because Los Angeles people are lazy as fuck. Los Angeles traffic sucks, but Los Angeles people are lazy as fuck, and they think they can do whatever they want because everyone wants to be a celebrity and because it's got the nice weather and we eat Mexican food, and so we're just kind of filled up on beans and rice and shit like that. So we just cruise around doing whatever the fuck we think we can do because we don't give a fuck. And then I went home and I watched Game 6 back in Detroit or whatever it was, Game 5 back in Detroit. And 30 minutes before the game, when the analysts were talking up in the rafters, the entire stadium was packed. And that's infectious. It affects the players. It affects the coaches. Yeah, I know the Lakers have won a whole bunch of championships. That's luck. But it's catching up with them now. It's the lazy LA culture. It's the celebrity culture. And now everybody wants to be a Nick Young, a middle-of-the-road basketball player that has a celebrity chick, and he's popular on TMZ, and that's what they all want. Fuck them.
Bro, Nick Young is not even close to being a middle-of-the-road basketball player. Iggy dumped his ass. And why the fuck you talk about 10 years ago?
Because it's finally caught up with them.
or chickens come home to roost.
That's
right.
What's
happening right now?
That's right. The LA culture has finally influenced and incepted their minds and bodies.
No, man. Luke Walton Jesus is going to save us. All right, what do you got next?
So what are your thoughts on the Brangelina split?
I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Oh, shit, they've split up?
They split up.
They've been together for like a decade, right?
They have been.
They even made a movie that was like about themselves, but then wasn't very good. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right?
I think that was the movie that they were filming when they first got together when he was cheating on Jennifer Aniston with her.
Oh, okay. Okay, here's my thing. I haven't started yet, so that doesn't count.
Okay.
I'm starting now. Angelina Jolie, when I was in high school, I thought was so banging. Super hot. Totally in love with her. I'm just trying to think what the movies were that were, I guess, Tomb Raider, which is god-awful.
Yeah.
Had come out in that time, but Laura Croft, and she was that, and that was super hot. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple other movies that I'm not thinking of the top. Definitely not Girl Interrupted.
I was just going to say Girl Interrupted, but she kind of was not hot in that one.
But purposefully so. And she's a pretty good actress and
Mm-hmm.
had the whole thing going on, right? Mm-hmm. So I could dig that. And Brad Pitt's like the ideal archetype male human being, right? Like, he's beautiful. He's a good actor. He's a good person. He's like from the Midwest. So he has like good manners and he cares about people and he has actual, he's intelligent and cares about social issues. It's like, just kind of fuck him for being perfect. And then also having Angelina Jolie. So at this point, they're probably in their 50s by now, but they look like they're 30 still.
Yep.
So I'm just going to be like, you know what? It's totally okay and I don't give a shit.
And they've procreated and created, maybe a couple of little children, and they've adopted a bunch of children so they can pass on their beauty and perfection to the next generation.
Did they procreate? Because I think they adopted just like a bunch of kids from Africa.
Oh, did they only adopt? I thought they had a couple of their own kids too.
Oh, I have no idea.
I know they have a stable of them. Yeah, I don't know. All right, what's your last one for me, brother?
All right, my last one, I have no idea if you're going to be able to do anything about this, but I just wanted to find out.
Okay.
I'm a total nerd. So I've been pretty upset this year about not getting my 6th book in the Song of Ice and Fire series from George R.R. Martin. Mm. And that Game of Thrones has now overtaken the books, and I'm going to have everything spoiled for me. I'm kind of pissed off about this.
Well, so from what I understand, he now is catching up, right? The show has expanded beyond the written word, and so now he's going to continue, but he's going to continue in a fresh direction. Is that not the case? So if that's the case, here is my hope for you, Troy. What that means is, the joke in Community, 6 seasons in a movie or 4 seasons in a movie or whatever it was. I think that's what we're going to get. His new book is going to be this script that will be adapted into a trilogy of films, because each of his books are just fucking 700 pages or some shit like that. So he's going to come up with another book. Don't you worry your pretty little Game of Thrones loving heart. And it's going to manifest itself into a trilogy of films directed by Peter Jackson. It's going to sweep the Oscars, and we're all going to live happily ever after in our Game of Thrones echo chambers, circle jerking around one another.
Wait, so you're saying that Game of Thrones is going to finish its run, and there's going to be like a vector going off from it based upon his books when they're finished?
Yes.
That would be unprecedented, I feel like, right?
I think so, but that is my bullshitting theory right now.
You're just trying to, butter me up. That's all you're trying to do.
Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised, though, honestly. I'm trying to think I'm trying to put my executive hat on, right? I've been in enough rooms with producers, executives, financiers. I know how they think. And the number one thing that creative producers are seeking are intellectual property, IP, if there's a built-in fan base and there's something that is solid that they believe they can bank on, they're going to figure out a way to make it. So now, I doubt that George Martin has allowed the television show to influence the story that he wants to tell too much. But nevertheless, I'm sure there will be some crossover. So I have a feeling that he's going to write his shit and he's going to have this source material that somebody will do something with. They have to. There's hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. They will do something with it. Guaranteed.
Yeah, dude. I mean, just give me an HBO prequel on Robert's Rebellion. Just putting that out there in the podcast universe. You have no idea what I'm talking about, probably. But
I don't.
Does, so,
I know nothing
yeah.
about it. I've watched half of one episode. I fell asleep in the first episode. So I'm so far behind. I know nothing about it. By the way, have you seen the new Netflix show, The OA, or have you heard about it?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, Google that shit. It's by Britt Marling and Zal. Oh God, I feel so bad. I can never remember his name. It might not be Zal, but it's her creative partner. And they did that movie that was called, I believe it was called The East. It was about that eco-anarchist gang that goes into, and it's about this one chick that tries to infiltrate it, and it's got the Skarsgård Tarzan guy, and then it's got Juno. God, I can't remember her name. What's her name?
Ellen Page?
Thank you. I love her. Ellen Page, and then the Tarzan, whatever his name is.
Is it Peter Skarsgård?
No, that's
oh no, the True Blood guy.
Yeah, the literally like the good-looking dude.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember.
His dad is Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah, they've got a family. But anyway, they did that film, and then they did the other one that I can't remember what it's called, but it's about this reporter that goes into this cult to try to understand what's going on with the inner workings of this sort of spiritualist cult group, and it's really interesting. So their first two projects were really, I thought, very, very good, and then they've got this Netflix TV series that I think it's 8 episodes, and it's been getting some interesting attention drawn to it. Mixed reviews, kind of polarizing, but they're kind of comparing it to Stranger Things because it's like sci-fi fantasy shit like that. But I don't know, so check that shit.
Okay, yeah, I will. You got one more for me, or are we done?
I think I'm done. I mean, I had another one, but I just deleted it, and now I can't remember what it was on my list.
That's cool, man. We'll be done.
Okay.
All right, so we should throw it over to Mike for This Week in Hip Hop, right? And we'll come back afterwards and divvy up grades and figure all that shit out, yeah?
With first-class legroom, big cocktails for everyone, and a schedule you can depend on.
Hey, what's up, Alzadon? This is Michael Burns with a truncated version of This Week in Hip Hop. I know it's the holidays. I know you all have a lot going on, so I'm not going to waste too much time. The one thing I did want to tell you about is I have put together a list that I have called This Year in Hip Hop, where I write about my top 10 albums, talk about some other ones that were right on the fringe, and explain to you why I didn't include 2 very popular albums on my list this year. I think that is linked to on the Alzadon Twitter account, and my own Twitter account at Mick O'Brien. You could just find it via a little bit of Google-based ingenuity. But the more important thing is, for any of you that are lazy and you want to listen and not read, there'll be a special edition of the podcast up the next 48 hours or so called This Year in Hip Hop. It'll be a standalone. You can listen to that, and I'm going to go through my thoughts on what was one of the best years in hip-hop in quite some time. Not a lot to talk about besides that, but I will tell you about 2 quick things. The first is that a new record came out today that is from Yasin Bey, who is the artist formerly known as Mos Def. It is a project he did with producer Ferrari Shepherd, and Ferrari Shepherd is someone you might know from his photography and writing and activism, but he's recently gotten into hip-hop production. Their joint project is called December 99th, and right now it is on Tidal only. It's very annoying. I don't use Tidal. You probably don't use Tidal. And it's annoying when an artist who has this sort of anti-corporate attitude like Yasin Bey puts his record out exclusively on Tidal. But whatever, it's there. I listened to the 35-second samples because it's all I could listen to on Tidal. My early thought was, but hopefully I'm wrong. Another record that drops Friday, December 23rd is The Ghost of Living, and this is a joint album featuring This Week in Hip Hop's favorite Vic Spencer out of Chicago, doing a project that is produced by Big Ghost, and some of you might know Big Ghost from his internet presence both on OK Player and on Twitter and on his own website. One of the funniest dudes in hip-hop, has now become one of the illest producers in hip-hop. And I will say this project, The Ghost of Living, I've had a chance to listen to an early version of it. Thank you to those gentlemen. And it's really good, and you're going to like it a lot. I'm going to review it as well. And if you listen all the way through, you might hear a familiar voice on the last track. I'm not going to say who, but I'm going to say it's mine. It's my voice. It's very weird to hear your corny white guy voice on a really dope rap record. But whatever, being included feels awesome. But that's all for right now. Check back and listen to This Year in Hip Hop. Have a good holiday, whatever you're doing. And even if you're an atheist, take some time off, have a drink, and enjoy yourself. Austin and Troy, Shakas.
Here I go. The sky as smoothly as a bird, you scarcely realize you are traveling.
All right, sweet. Well, thank you, Michael, for your abbreviated This Week in Hip Hop. Also, just to let you guys know that This Year in Hip Hop will be coming out as a separate segment, probably actually around the same time that this one is live, so it should be up now. So make sure you check your subscriber feeds through iTunes or check the website or however else you access the podcast, because it will be up. And I'm pretty stoked that he got his little shout out, that the podcast got the sample in Vic Spencer's new album, huh?
Yeah, we can't hear that yet, though, right? Because it's a preview that he has.
Yeah, it's a special preview that he had. So I haven't heard it yet, but fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, we'll have to drop a line on the Twitter account when that comes out, because I want to hear it for sure.
Abso-freaking-lutely. And then other than that, what do you have to say? I mean, you're a big Mos Def Yasiin Bey fan, right?
I mean, back in the day, yeah, like Black Star and shit. But I mean, when's the last time he did something that was really all that good? I can't even think.
See, I don't really know. I know the Black Star because they just did one album, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I know that album is sick. That's one of those albums, right? That if you don't know, then you better fucking know it.
Oh yeah, it's a top 10 hip hop album of all time. I think most people would say, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I really like Talib Kweli in a lot of different ways. Just his subsequent stuff. He's just got such a silky smooth voice. He's one of my favorite. What would you say, like MCs? I guess. Since I'm not as balls deep in the hip hop world as y'all are, but yeah, he's got one of my favorite sort of vocal stylings of any of the guys out there. Well, cool. So moving on. What have we got going on next week, brah?
Well, really quick, shouldn't we give the results of the Festivus games that just concluded?
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel like you're eager to do this because you got some good results on the grade point average for your first scores there.
Well, I did win the airing of grievances,
You did.
which I expected to because you're way too nice. And But then we did the feats of strength. That was the rapid fire round, and you won that because I fucked up twice.
Yeah, but that's just because I can bullshit about anything in any context with whomever all the time. Like, I don't know if that's a strength or if that's a weakness of mine, but I can just talk.
My problem is I need to stand up when I'm talking. Like I don't pause and say and shit like that when I'm standing up walking around a classroom. But I'm sitting down in a fucking chair. I got nothing.
I feel that your body energy needs to be in tone with the quality of your rant. Okay, well, next time we do it, next year, at the end of 2017, you can stand up and do it, and then I'll stand up and do it. What if we do it live? We'll do it live, where we're like staring at each other across.
We won't even record it. We'll just yell it really loud.
Yeah, probably. Well, I mean, if the world falls apart and there is no internet or anything like that, we might have to do that.
Analog podcast.
Analog podcast. Yeah. Well, okay. So for the first one, the airing of grievances, your grade point average was 3.8. Mine was 3.6. And then in the feats of strength, like you said, I won. I didn't say and so I won that one. So we tie, which means going into 2017, we're equal. And so 2017 will initiate a new series of battles.
Or something.
Give
us some ideas if you're out there. I don't know.
Right.
We don't want to think about this anymore.
No. Moving on. Next week. What are we doing next week?
Next week,
after Christmas.
We just completed our shitty hour, right? The Festivus episode. So next week's going to be much more optimistic. We're going to be kind of reviewing the year and all the good shit that went down. Yeah, we'll be going through a lot of the stuff we talked about on the podcast, philosophy, politics, music, art, culture, the whole thing, and just reviewing the things that's brought meaning to this year. So hopefully we can look back on this year, not for all the shitty stuff that happened, but a lot of the good stuff, because there was a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we can call this the Austin episode because I'm the optimist. So this is like the optimist Austin episode.
Are you equating me with the shitty episode?
That would be the logical extension, and I'm not saying that. So I'm going to backtrack. We won't call this the Austin episode. We'll just call this the optimistic episode.
All right, so look forward to that next week, and I'm sure we'll have a little list out in case you want to look up some of the stuff. But other than that, we basically got nothing, right?
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter, owls_at_dawn. Same handle on Instagram. I will be putting a link to Michael's This Year in Hip Hop, not just the audio version, but also he has a written version as well, so we'll put a link up to that so you can check that out. And other than that, we will be with you guys next week, yeah?
Yep. Das Vidania, Amerikanski.